Yo, this is the third. I'm here chilling with Pursuit of Dopeness. And you can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Third the Poet. I'll see y'all soon.
Tonight, we are here with the third, and you're chilling with the Pursuit of Dopeness here. And we really appreciate you sitting down and taking some time with us.
Yes, sir. Thank you for welcoming.
So I introduced your name, but where are you from, man?
From the south side of Chicago. Yes, sir. Chatham raised, and we here.
And how old are you right
now? 20-something. I lose track every time, but now it's become like a thing where every time for the last few years I just say 20-something and it works every time.
I did. Right on. So you're 20-something now, but how long have you been writing poetry for?
I started writing poetry when I was about 10 or 11. Taken after my pops, who's a poet, and a lot of his homies who are great writers and rappers in Chicago. And then I started recording when I was about 13, which turned into like rap and making music and stuff like that. So yeah, about 11 years, just about. Yeah.
So that transition from, like Third the Poet to the third was a pretty natural progression, right?
Yeah. So funny thing. I went through a real interesting phase of names that I actually, this might be my first time talking about it in interview, but I went through a lot of kind of embarrassing stage names. I tried the initials. The word Dreezy was involved somewhere in my artist name, which is really bad. And then we got to the third, probably. Actually, my freshman year in high school, I want to say, I joined my first poetry team. I was doing Louder Than a Bomb. I was competing in the annual poetry competition. And one of my performance coaches was like, the third works. We were all like introducing ourselves. And it just kind of like stuck. So the third kind of stuck. Third the Poet is actually just for my Instagram tag only because there's some dude that hasn't used his account in like 4 or 5 years that has just at the third. And my goal is to get famous enough where I can like just bully him out of the account, and respectfully, of course, and just have that. But yeah, that's the only reason you see Third the Poet is through like his IG. So yeah.
Sweet. So you mentioned Louder Than the Bomb. You started that your freshman year of high school, you said?
Yep.
And that's a high school only program?
Yep.
Okay. So you did that all 4 years of your high school?
Yeah. And yeah, competed all 4 years and had a lot of fun. I think the best part about that was just meeting so many talented people. You know what I'm saying? Like, especially starting out writing and creating, you are in this like space of you. You have a bunch of people you're inspired by, and then it's just you. You know what I mean? And so being able to meet a lot of my peers who are like at varying stages of their like creative process and career, and just being like, yo, you struggle with this too, like let's co-work. Like, yes, you just beat me really bad, you know what I mean, like because we're in competition, or yes, I just beat, but like we also have things that we can work on together. And so we would like leave competitions and then meet that same weekend and create together and workshop together. And it was like one of the like probably best experiences I've ever had as a creative, as a person in general.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Involved in YCA prior to that?
Yeah. So I've been in the YCA like realm, learning and going to their workshops and stuff since I was like 13.
Okay.
So yeah, about a year before that, and then people have been like telling me about it all the way up until then, until I was old enough to compete. And yeah. Yep.
Shout out YCA.
For sure.
Can you speak on programs such as YCA and YouMedia at all? Give shouts to any people, particular people?
Oh man.
Too many people.
Definitely. There are a lot of people. YouMedia is definitely one of those spaces where I've been like going through, and just YouMedia was actually one of my first open mic spaces. First off, you know what I'm saying, giving a whole lot of respect and homage to brother Mike Hawkins, who really like raised a lot of great young people in that space, and I think is like the paragon for collaborative work in Chicago. I think he like continued to press on and emphasize on the importance of working together while going down your own creative process. Also finding other people that are either on that same journey or want to see you complete that journey, and working with those people to do that in whatever, you know what I'm saying, fashion it takes. And that was super inspiring because I wasn't there for the entirety of his like effect and his legacy, but then I'm like really close to the people that grew up under him. So like coming up and seeing them be affected by that and take on that legacy and carry that is super inspiring. And just like also now being like a byproduct of that attitude has been like really great. Also just the people who kind of like who like made the space comfortable for all of us young people to walk in. I'm like really nervous about naming all the names because if I forget one, somebody's gonna charge it to my heart instead of my mind, and but I see all them in my head, and like I really appreciate all of you all, every single one of y'all. I'm not sure which camera to look into, but like seriously, yeah, it's I can't emphasize how important it was that being like a young person who had no idea like exactly what they wanted to do or be in life, and walking in and seeing all these options and these resources, and then seeing people behind the desk that welcome you to all these options and resources and saying, here's how you do this, and not just throwing you to your own devices, you know what I mean? Right. So they were super involved, and I can't tell you how much of a like a blessing that was, for sure. Then growing up, kind of graduating out of the space and then becoming like their coworker, and then like giving back was probably, I think, out of all the things I've done in life, that I think that might be like one of my personally like my highest achievements, was being able to turn around and having them welcome me like with open arms to like be able to give back to a space that gave to me like not that long ago. And so, you know, hosting the workshops in there, hosting the open mics, and the talks and all that good stuff were like really great. And you know, facilitating the panels and the performances really helped me kind of see the other side of like the creative, like just how we invest in like young people in the like creative process. So that was really great. YCA, really the same thing. I mean, like I really found like a community in YCA. I found a lot of my voice in YCA, and a lot of my confidence came from being in those spaces. Because all the years before that, I was creating and rapping to myself in my room, you know what I'm saying? And like, you know, whoever wanted to listen, and being in that space where there's somebody who, first of all, I had no idea how many of the people that I was listening to and inspired by were in those spaces teaching and facilitating. That was really cool, just walking in, but also being like, this is what I want to do. And so there are people there that can appreciate the work that you have, and then provide the tools in order for you to take that work and your ethic and then help it grow and like step up to another level was amazing. So I say it was definitely one of them spaces that kind of just kept a revolving door of new minds and great minds and collaborative efforts and artists to come through and just provide more for the youth for free, might I add. That was like a huge thing with YouMedia too, like for free. And so yeah, and then also like being able to like grow out of that space. Now I don't really think it's the space you go out of, but as far as like Louder Than a Bomb and all the other stuff, like these are spaces that you kind of I grew up and then turned around and started like working there as a teaching artist and being able to contribute to the progress of Louder Than a Bomb and like the workshops on the weekends, and being able to help out wherever I could was like really a blessing too, for sure.
Great, that's really special. Stemming off that, on a recent YCA wordplay that was recorded, you performed a track called External Conflicts, and I believe it was just an a cappella rendition of this. And it was a bar that you said, I got students who don't even know we're learning together.
Ooh.
Can we talk about that one a little bit?
Yeah. Wow. Okay, so that was a song that ended up being the intro on my, not the last EP, but the EP before that, the director's cut. And yeah, so man, now I want to remember the rest of the. I think that line definitely was I was reflecting a lot about my process or my transition from becoming a student to becoming a teacher, or a mentee to become a mentor, and realized that there was never really a transition. Like, I just kind of added another thing to my bag, you know what I mean? And so that was one of those things where I was kind of like, how can I continue to teach and to also learn at the same time? Also learning that my further my journey in learning as a student elevates my ability to teach and like makes me a greater teacher, you know what I mean? So there have been a bunch of times where I would walk into class and there's something I literally just learned the other day, or I'm like learning currently, and would like give to my class like in parts, and their minds would just be blown, and they have no idea that I'm just as like in awe about this thing that I'm learning too. And you know, that's like something that, because you, especially when you're a student and you sit in class, like you just think your teachers know everything that you need to know, and it's rarely ever the case. I can tell you that for sure. Like, also being a teacher that talks to other teachers, rarely ever the case, right? And so realizing that, like, yeah, my students are in a learning environment with their teacher who's also currently in a learning environment, and I think that's how it should always be. I don't think it's a bad thing at all. It's really like a cyclical process of like taking in information to get it. Because if you're just holding it in for yourself, like, how do you, like, imagine the first person that started learning something, if they kept it for them and didn't pass it down to anybody, you know what I mean? And then like they, you know, time goes on and they, you know what I'm saying, pass away, then like where does that knowledge go? You know what I mean? So like that's how I think about it, as like a cyclical process of like receiving information and giving it off. So yeah, I want to emphasize that in my music. And also I think the transparency helps a lot too. Just being like, hey, I don't know everything and I'm in the process of still learning. Here is a bar that tells you that I'm like very much so still in a learning phase while having a teaching position. And neither of those things mean the end of the other, if that makes sense. So yeah.
Can you speak on this teaching position briefly?
So I'm a teacher. I started teaching in the very beginning of 2019 was my first teaching job, I want to say. And I started teaching a poetry workshop through YCA. So I was a satellite teaching artist, and what I was doing was I would go to different schools for about 4 to 6 weeks. I would teach any version of like poetry, hip hop history, any type of like creative writing, fictional writing, and we would have like 4 to 6 weeks of learning a topic. We would break down lyrics. We would make our own. We would make music, and at the end of it all, we would have this culminating event where they get to show people like what they learned and like their own creative process. We make sure that it's all documented. We find a way for them to keep it, and then I move on to another school. And that was like really interesting for me, being able to be in and I was in, a lot of it was going on the South Side, so I was like teaching in the same spaces where I was like learning at also, which is really surreal. So I did that for about a year, and then I got a permanent job at a school where I was teaching creative writing and English, and it just kind of became a thing. I never planned on being a teacher ever. I have both my parents are teachers, and so they would come home with stories about all different types of things. And I was like, as fun as this is, like, you know, hearing you tell the story, I don't think I actually want to experience this Also just never really imagined myself in a teaching position really. I like helping people, but like that's really it, you know what I'm saying? So I was just like, yeah, I'll do this, and then like that'll be it. And then I tripped and fell and got an email that was like, hey, we have a school that wants you to come and teach like poetry. And I was like, all right, let's make it happen. So I didn't mind it at all, really, because like I'm always in the creative mindset that I want to be in, if that makes sense. So if I'm not going out and rapping, if I'm not creating, if I'm not performing, I'm teaching someone else how to do one of those things, which is really cool. So there are times I'm teaching all day, and I get home and then I have like ideas for my own stuff based on what I just got finished teaching them, or something that one of my students brought up that I didn't even think about, that now I have something to write based off of, which has always been really great. So yeah, I think it's been one of those things that have been like helping. It's like a self-refueling type of situation where I've been able to help a lot of people with it, and also been getting a lot of help. So yeah, teaching is cool. I don't mind it. It's all right.
Sounds really dope.
Yeah.
Would you say it's been an avenue to perfect your creative process, or maybe further progress it?
For sure. I think there are a lot of things that, like, especially when you're growing up, you have a lot of experiences in and outside of academia that you think are like singular to you. And so a lot of times you kind of like have these experiences and you hold these experiences. Being a teacher, I think, might be the most insightful position you can have into a child's brain without having a child of your own. And so like dealing with like hundreds of students a day, right? You know what I'm saying, throughout the week, it's like I get to see the fact that this is where I was, like almost exactly for some of them, like at that age. And I was not the only person going through this thing. They're also 11 and they can't sit down in a seat for more than 25 minutes like I was. You know what I'm saying? Like sometimes that's still a challenge for me now. You know what I mean? Like, so that's the thing where I'm like, I get to learn a lot about them, and then I get to take those things and kind of like figure out how I have to like change the way I teach and deliver information based on where I knew I was at that time. You know what I mean? Which also changes the way I think sometimes, which is cool. And so I've been able to kind of like teach different subjects based on their specific experiences, which like really helps getting to know them. And then, like I said, I get home and I'm like, wow, these are a lot of things I never thought about. Also, I feel there have been times I felt a lot less, I guess, awkward talking about different things, because I know that some of them went through that same thing. And so I can like document these experiences and these thought processes, and they end up being like through like music or like short poems at the end of the day when I have time. So yeah, it's been great. It's been great.
Awesome. So you mentioned your father is also an educator and a poet. You said you didn't feel like you were destined to go down the education path necessarily, but the poetry path, did you feel like from a young age that was something that really just stuck? Yeah,
for sure. That's always something I like. So like between like my dad being a great writer, and also like his friends and you know, taking me to open mics since I was super young and just being in those spaces, I also just got put on to a lot of great music. You know what I'm saying? I grew up on a lot of Lecrae. I grew up on a lot of Common and Kanye. Those are like my three like pillars of like hip hop for me in my life.
Sure.
And growing up a lot of them, Common has a song on his my favorite album, Beat, called The Corner, with Kanye West and The Last Poets. And the song is literally about Common's like view of the South Side and like the different trials and tribulations and thought processes that are involved in being a person that grew up on the South Side of Chicago. And so the video, I saw the music video for it when I was really young, and the music video is about like a 3-minute drive from where I live now. And then like being able to see that familiar place, I'm like, yo, that's like 46 and King Drive. Like, that's not far from the Green Line. And like being able to realize that like he's taken this experience and documented it in the form of music, and then kind of like put it in a place where this is like where he grew up, and this is how he thinks about it and what it is. He's also chronicling like periods of time through the music and through the writing. That was so like attractive to me. Like that was like, yo, I'm astonished, because this is something that's so familiar to me that I can like see and look at this very moment, and then those are like tied to those experiences and those songs and that writing. And I was like, yo, I want to do that. I want to be able to like take moments in time and places that I've experienced and put them in forms that people can easily understand. And I think there's a sense of like relating that I really enjoy about making music like this, because I've brought up like certain things in my music, and people will like hit me up through like Instagram or see me in real life and being like, yo, like I grew up there too. You know what I mean? Or like I've like had this happen to me too. Somebody hit me up a couple of days ago about I have a song called Used to Losing. And it's one of my favorite songs, but it's about me like going to a public school for the first time. So I'm growing up on the south side, but then going to school over west, and like the whole journey through there, and like my rough transition from you know, in that age of time when I was in 5th grade. And they were like, yo, like I love this song so much. The lyrics are cool. They were like, the lyrics are cool, but like I really just am like, I can really identify with having this same situation happen to me before. And I was like, yo. And like, who knows how they were feeling when they felt like that was only happening to them. You know what I mean? And when I get messages like that, I'm like, yo, I don't think I can stop doing this. When I can bring people together like that, I don't think this is something I can stop doing. This is gonna be a thing for a long time. Yeah.
So stemming off that, you've previously mentioned that being a poet/rapper provides a golden opportunity, honestly, to influence the masses as much as or more than a politician. And you've said that before. Could you expand on that statement?
Facts. I think that, I think that there's a lot of influence that we have as artists that can affect the way that people think and behave. And there is like a very there's a specific point in how we communicate to people on a day-to-day basis that makes it important for people to like lock in. So somebody's favorite artist, in my opinion, is going to be able to make them feel a way, right? Sometimes even if they're like, you know, on point, making them think a certain way or behave a certain way. I have favorite artists that I can go from one mood to the next just by listening to this artist. And I think that a lot of the time, especially in the world that we live in, a lot of information and emotions and periods of time are better communicated through the artists in our that surround us, that are in our cars, that are in our headphones, on our phones, on social media, like all the time, or that we're going to see live. You know what I mean? We have not had, especially like in the city, like a great relationship with politicians who consistently, you know what I'm saying, like screw us over and like, you know, would like to have a certain impact on us and influence, but never really goes over well, to say the least. And so I think when we have artists who are politically involved, especially right now, how a lot of homies and a lot of artists who are making the efforts to not just be artists and rappers, but to also do something for people outside of music, which is a blessing. When the quarantine first started, we had and the CPS buildings got closed down and lunches were being poured out. So now we have these kids who were kind of counting on going to school to like eat, that were not getting that. And so I had a lot of my homies like put bread together and just get funds together, and like created our own like outside market and like grocery store with pre-bagged groceries for people to come by on the south side and like just grab for the free. And these are all rappers who are not trying to like show off their latest album or EP. We weren't outside ciphering, you know what I mean? Like we had our DJ homie like playing across the street, listening to our favorite music and doing things for people, you know what I mean? And I think those like relationships and that type of impact does a lot more for people than the words and promises and empty promises that politicians can give. And you know, it's not like a slight to, well, nah, I lied. It is. It just happens to be where we as artists have a flexibility to exist in a lot of different places and affect a lot of different people at the same time. And it just so happens that artists and politicians, whenever we get that same opportunity, have just two different outcomes. Yeah.
Did you feel it was necessary to sharpen your pen, quote unquote, through poetry before you started releasing actual music?
You know, I did. Yes. To your short answer is yes. I was writing poetry for a couple years before I started like creating songs, and I think that helped a lot because I was also reading a lot of poetry and just being surrounded by a lot of poetry. And I think poetry really helped a lot with my word choice when I started making music. I think if I hadn't been as engulfed in like spoken word as I was before I started making music, my music would be a little different. I can't say whether it would be better or worse. I just think that where I started, as far as like writing poetry and spoken word, really helped kind of like fuel and add in, I like to say, like an accent to the way I write my music. A lot of my emphasis when I write is word choice. I think that's something that like makes me different from a lot of artists. It's like I could say this one thing and everybody will understand what I'm saying, but then like there also I rock with like a lot of different, like this means the same thing, but I'm also gonna add this context to it that gives you another like feel of like now everybody gets it and it hits harder. You know what I mean? So that's been a thing for me, and poetry helped with that a lot, definitely a lot. I can't say that I had to like wait till I got better with poetry to start making music. I felt that way for a little while because I started being aware of the other artists around me and how cold they were, and I was just like, dang, I don't want to be. I grew up like very competitive, very, very competitive. So I was just in a space where like I just really wanted to be great. Like the work is going to be good, but I want it to be great. And so I was in that space where I was like, okay, let me go ahead and work on this more. And then when I get the beat, I'll be all right. Like we'll make it work. But then it was like, nah, like I realized that the whole like waiting for this to happen so you can do this, most of the time is like not a real thing. A lot of the time you're never going to find, that time is never going to come, that right time that we're all waiting for. And so a lot of times you just gotta jump into it. So my dad had a hard drive when I was about 12 or 13. He might have had it for longer, but it's just at that moment when I started using it. That was just full of instrumentals from my favorite artists. So a bunch of Jesus Walks instrumental. You know what I mean? Like Can't Tell Me Nothing instrumental. A lot of like Common and Kanye and a lot of like older, Mos Def was also another like a rapper that I love listening to this day. A lot of their older instrumentals from a lot of their like famous albums, and I would just go through and just rewrite music to a lot of it. And I wasn't making like songs. I was more writing verses to like just their beats. And then, of course, as I feel like this happens in every artist, like eventually we find the YouTube beats and we start writing to YouTube beats. But that was me for a long time. In my room, I had a snowball mic, and my dad got me a computer, and I was using Audacity, and I was just like going through these instrumentals of songs that I love, and then like writing new lyrics, and it was like, this helps a lot. So yeah, that's where I was at with it. Poetry definitely helped a lot.
Sweet.
For sure.
So past the type beats era, what were the first producers that you kind of tried to tap into? Were they Chicago based? Were they remote?
So outside of YouTube beats, they were definitely Chicago based. I was like, I know a lot of good producers. I've heard a lot of their good work, and I want to get to know them. I want to find out like where they're at and what they're doing. I got in touch with like a lot of great producers. Ace Da Vinci was one of those producers, a great producer who I met through YCA. Ace Spade, who was a DJ but also a great producer who I met through YCA. A lot of them are just really talented. Sage is like a really great producer. Fable is a great producer. All these people that I kind of like met through the YCA space and other spaces where I was like, this is it. Like this is quality work. I also know these people. You know what I mean? And that just, I feel like that just really just hit different as far as like looking for production. I like that a lot. And I really started asking around to my other homies who made music in Chicago, just like, yo, who are y'all getting to make these beats? And meeting those people. Further down the line, like I just started meeting like really great Burlo, was a really great producer who produced Fully Realized, just really, really, really talented producer. Chicago Kari is a super talented producer. They just are, these people are just like, yo, I want to be able to create music in a way where I can continue to like have a producer's mindset. I don't know how to produce, but I want to have the sound that surrounds the place that I live in. And I want to support the sounds that exist in the place that I live in. So that was really a thing where I was like, let's figure out how I can move into a more collaborative mindset in music making. And yeah, it was great. It's great.
So after seeing all these producers kind of work with you, whether it's through YCA or not, how did that transition to an actual producer come about? How did you get inspired to start?
So I finally got locked in. I want to say, where was this first? Okay, so I started, I got locked in with Ace Da Vinci closer to, I want to say, almost a year ago. So last summer, I want to say. And we got locked in, and we started just going through beats. And we were actually in the car. I can't remember where we were going to or coming from. We were in a car, and this is how like a lot of my the collabs kind of just end up happening. But we were just trading, just like playing stuff that we worked on. So we like, he'll play something, pass the aux to me, I'll play something. And he ended up playing this beat that I really, really liked. And I was just like, I would like to see where I can take this. At the time, I started producing my own stuff. I started making beats for myself. April 2020 was when I bought my first like MPC and was like making beats. And I like played one that I made not too long ago, and he was like, I like this one. We ended up just trading the beats, and it wasn't even like a week and a half that passed, but like I ended up writing a song to that that's actually gonna be coming out in a little while. So so like ended up just doing that. Not too long after that, I got tapped in with Burlo, who's an amazing producer. He produces a lot of stuff for MFMLO of Pivot Gang, and does just great work. And so I ended up getting tapped in with him. Mello introduced us to each other a while back, like a year and a half ago, and we ended up just like becoming familiar. And he was playing a beat I was just like, yo, I need that. Like I have to have that. Like this has to happen. So he ended up sending it to me, and I made Fully Realized. It was on the last project. And it's one of my favorite songs I've ever made. I told him that, like, yo, I was like kind of stuck in a moment, as far as like my writing process was concerned. And he sent me that beat, and there was something about that beat that kind of like started everything back up. And so I ended up writing that, and I went to who was I going to see? Olive Blue. She was performing at Navy Pier. I went to go see them performing at Navy Pier, and ran into my homie Brittany Carter. We ended up meeting, and then we ended up driving back when we left. And when we're in the car playing unreleased music of ours, you know what I'm saying? And I played Fully Realized, which had like the whole song was just the same, and the hook was like all me. And she was like, you know, this would sound raw with like somebody singing on it. Yeah. And I was like, yeah, for sure. And she was like, let's talk about this real soon. And then like 2 weeks passed, and then we were like, boom, let's get it done. And so we got that done, and then she was on the song. And yeah, I think it was really just one of them things where it kind of just worked out. Right now I'm like very in tune. So I'm at the point now where like I'm like getting sent beats, which is really cool. And so now just being like really familiar with all the different artists. And I think it was also another thing was that like I hadn't been like publicly making it known that I was looking for and working on music. So I think a lot of us were just kind of like into our own thing. And so I started just kind of being more audible about like me wanting to collaborate, which is always something that was in my head. Like if somebody asked me, I'd be like, yeah, let's do it. But I've never been like a person that's like, hey, I want to collaborate with you all. Like let's see what we can do. So I just started every once in a while, like when I was looking to create, I was making, creating tweets like, yo, if you're a producer from Chicago, like let's work, let's like talk business. And they would DM me, and then we just start talking, and then like have something done. So been really excited about that. Got really into my own production. I think a lot of my progress since 2020 April has been because I've like been watching other producers. I really am like seriously inspired by and impressed by like a lot of Chicago producers. Pete and Cottontail is like an amazing producer. Thelonious is an amazing producer. Go Hayes, insane. And so a lot of my like moving forward has been like, especially with my competitive mindset, I'm like, yo, if I'm going to start doing this, right, and especially if I'm new, I'm already trash. I've been doing this now makes a year and 8 months. So like I want to make sure that I'm gonna do something every day, and it has to be like this. And when I say it has to be like this, it doesn't have to be like exactly, but this is the goal. This is what I'm working towards, and this is also I'm entering their space. You know what I mean? That's how I think about it. So like if I'm gonna do it, I gotta do it right. I gotta make sure I like know what I'm doing and I'm like doing my best every single time. Because they're gonna keep putting out quality work like this. So I'm like, let me go ahead and yeah, I'm also in the works of like working with those people. So that's the process too. So yeah.
Do you think your improvement production-wise has helped your ability to rap and flow over beats?
For sure. Oh, for sure. I can't even tell you how many different pockets I've discovered just by making beats. Yeah. I was watching an interview with Smino. Smino was talking about how like his different like pockets and flows he got from like he used to be a drummer. Right. So he like would drum and like everybody's like, when you're making beats, you're like, oh, we need like the hi-hats. He was like, yo, I'm like sitting here doing the patterns. I was like, what if I did this with my voice? And was like reworking his flows and like writing based on like these like drum patterns. And so that was something that was like interesting to me, and it made sense. And I was like, okay. And I started producing, and I was like, oh no, this is real. Like I actually get this now, you know what I mean? And so like instead of like putting like filling up this whole thing with a bunch of sound, put space in it, and then put your voice in there to fill in those beats in between. And I've had a lot of fun. I just entered the point a couple weeks ago where I'm now like building beats and also writing while I'm building the beat, which is really cool. So now I can like kind of track my like progress through how many beats I've made, which is fire. And I have like at least 8 bars to go with each of those beats as an idea. Even if I never use them, I'm like, this is how I think about it. You know what I mean? I have like access to it. So yeah, it's been really cool. It's been really, really cool.
All right, getting back into some of your older music, how important was the release of Cursive in 2019?
Ooh, that was 2019?
I believe so.
Yo.
Am I tripping?
No, you might be right. I have little to no concept of time. That's crazy. I think that Cursive was the most important and will always be the most wow, sounded out, Trey. The most important project I've dropped because it was the first one. And because with this first one, I stepped out. I did something really bold, which was have my first project have 7 songs in it, which is not a lot, but I think it's like it's definitely one of them things where like having gone from only like 2 singles before that to 7-song project was a little bit of a leap, I would say. And I made a lot of mistakes. I made a lot of just ridiculous mistakes and they were not necessarily bad, but just like now that I know better, it's like I would have told myself like, you can wait. I think my rollout for Cursive was the Tuesday before it dropped. So it dropped on a Tuesday, if I remember right. The week before that, I was like, the caption was like, guess what's dropping next week, and then a picture of the cover. And I was like, I looked back at it like a couple weeks ago, and I was like, come on. And like I said, not a bad thing, but as in like, now that I know about all the things I've done wrong, I can do a bunch of better right things. So it's definitely been like a foundational building, like kind of like stepping stone for all the great work that I'm about to drop now. I have been dropping since Cursive. The Director's Cut was my second project, right? Yes. And you know what I'm saying, that project is only good because I dropped Cursive first. If Director's Cut came out first, Director's Cut would have been that rough one that is the setting stone for whatever came next. You know what I mean? So it's definitely been one of them things where like, I know about all the wrong things I did, and now I can find something else to do. And so I've learned a lot. Even with like my like writing and delivery, I listen back to Cursive. It's so cringeworthy, but I try to go back and listen to my older songs at least 2 or 3 times a year, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it's with the amount of songs I have out, it's kind of like I just try to go through it a little bit at a time. And I realized like there's definitely a feeling that I get that I wasn't getting when I was creating music then, at least delivering music then, that I have now. So like, yeah, the writing got better, but it's really just like the way that I deliver the writing, the intentionality that I have with the writing is a lot sharper now and a lot more intentional now because of my growth, and just like what I was doing then was good, but it just didn't hit the same as what I have now. Sure. And so even like I'm working on an album right now, I'll say it. I think it's my first time. Yeah, I'm working on an album right now. That's the thing. and we're this close. But while I was working on it, like started working on an album, I went back and listened to all my old projects. This album is gonna be the best work I've put out ever, and I didn't want it to sound anything like what I was dropping before, because I feel like in that case, you think about how much time. This is how I think about. Sometimes I can be really critical as an artist, and so I try to listen to things without my artist ear and just like my consumer's ear. But I think about like artists and even myself. If I'm to drop something, if I drop Cursive, and you said Cursive was 2019, and in 2022 I'm getting ready to drop an album and it sounds anything like Cursive, 3 years have passed. You know what I'm saying? You would expect some type of growth, some type of like significant growth or change in this period of time. And in my head, I'm like, I might as well go back and listen to Cursive then, like if this is what I'm working on, you know? So I really want to be super different. So I went back and listened to the project and I was just like, wow, this wasn't bad, but I definitely know what I need to do better. And so that's now it's execution time. And so like, that's been a thing for sure.
You're talking down on the director's cut, but I'd say it's honestly a very bold offering, and that progression from 2019 to 2020 seemed it was a huge progression, I'd say. Can you speak on how that creative process might have changed between those two projects?
I think my creative process with director's cut was a little bit more, I think my theme, that was the biggest thing. My concept was a little bit more solid than Cursive. A lot more solid than Cursive. With working on this album, there were a couple songs that I was creating that did not make the album. And so I was really intentional on figuring out how I can make my creative process as transparent as possible while making this work. Because I want people to see. I feel like people feel it more if they know what you put into it while you were working on it. Mm-hmm. And as like a growing artist, and artist that is developing his platform, you know what I'm saying, I think that's the best thing I can do right now, is if I'm not affecting and like influencing a bunch of people like larger artists are, I can really make the finite crowd I have feel some type of way. You know what I mean? So like, and that's honestly what I would rather that. And so I'm trying to be very transparent. Hey guys, like I'm working on this album and not all of it fits. You know what I mean? I personally don't think I'm anywhere in my career where somebody will listen to 20 songs from me, like straight. You know what I mean? So like some of these gotta go. And that's fine. But I really want you all to hear them. Also, these are songs that were made, most of them were made during quarantine, which was one of the most like uninspiring and like really like draining periods of time for me as a creator. I feel like for a lot of creators, but I'm here, like for me as a creative, it was really difficult. So I'm like, let me go ahead and just show you all what I created through this tough time, and you all take what you will. And so that was director's cut, just like the director's cuts in movies, just like not all of this fit in the movie, and here we're gonna like put it out for you anyway. And it's rough, it's not perfect, but you do get a more full scope of the work when you look at it from what did make it and what's about to come. You know what I mean? So these 5 songs are what you all have. I think, and I did talk down on it just because like it was like, to me it was like so long ago, but now I'm in a space where the director's cut I think really showed that I can also make music. For a very, very, very long time in my writing like career, I was literally only writing verses. I would write 2 and 3 and almost 4-minute verses before I would break it up and put a hook in. I was not great at hooks. My first solid hook that I even felt comfortable saying out loud was probably Black and Gold. That was my first successful hook in 2019. So I was just like, let me figure out how I can make this work. And I want to create more music. I want to create songs. I think I've already shown I could write. I don't have any like doubts in my mind. I mean, I have like growth, like personal growth of where I want to be, because I am very close and have mentors that are much better than me.
Yeah.
And with my like mindset, I'm like, yo, like I was actually talking to Ad2 is one of my mentors and big homies, and he's like he's just a great writer. Also really good people. And we talk, and I'm just like, I know where I want to be as far as like writing is concerned and that skill, and there's a lot more writing and reading and time that has to pass for me to get there. But as far as like where I am right now, I feel like I'm very solid in my writing skill. I want to show that I can make songs. And so a lot of my quarantine, after quarantine first started, I went like 3 months without writing, which is super weird because every day since I started writing poetry and music, I wrote every single day. And so to go like 2.5, 3 months without writing and just totally uninspired and unstimulated was like really odd. And Be Water was the first song I made out of quarantine, like out of that slump. And I really enjoy that song, and I think I like it that much because it was my first song out of that slump. And I was in a lot of workshops, whether they were like through YCA or they were through like some of my homies just coming together and figuring out like what we want to do. So we would just sit and co-work on Zoom and just have workshops and just put on beats and figure out like what works for us, and we just write songs. There was a moment in time after I got out of that slump that I was doing like IG Lives. So I would like, back when IG Live had like an hour limit, I would just I would put on a beat and I would just sit there and write. And people would come through and recommend like song titles or subjects or lines or whatever like that. And I would see how much I can get out in this hour. And actually Be Water was one of those IG Live songs where I got that out in an hour. And that was a lot of fun. And so for the people, for those like 7 to 8 people who sat there and watched me write that song from start to finish, all hit me up when the song dropped. I was like, yo, this is what you're working on when, and it didn't sound anything like, I'm like, yes, because it had to get workshopped and done. And that feels really good to have that like connection. But yeah, I think Director's Cut really showed that I can make music. I'm really comfortable with like my song creating process as far as like having verses and creating hooks and melodies and ideas and concepts, and, and being thorough in a concept. A lot of times we drop albums and projects that are like supposed to have themes and concepts, but it doesn't exist all the way through. Some of it drops off, or like, here, this is a song that I just liked on here. It doesn't really fit the theme, but like, it's on there. And that's cool. I mean, they do what you want to do, but like I have a plan and objective to have a fully thorough concepted album. And so that was like a goal of mine. And I'm sorry, that was an EP, but like, getting it done and being on the journey to do the album. And so I appreciate that project for that, for sure.
I would say that you're an artist to offer a lot of impressive creative direction besides and outside of the music. Do you usually focus on that part of the process after the music is already completed, or is it kind of all intertwined and simultaneous?
As far as
maybe like music videos or the look of your album cover, or just visual, maybe creative concepts and aspects of it.
So since I started dropping music, I've created all my album covers. Every song and album cover was me. I'm trying to think. Actually every single one was me. And this next drop is a single that's coming out in a few weeks. That is my first time I didn't create my own. But yeah, I think that's been like a real thing about like being very intentional about how I create my work. I also like to know how to do a little bit of everything, so that when I do work with those people, I'm like not totally lost. I really hate the idea of like, especially like sitting in the studio and like having the person like mix and master the song. You can add like Jacob. Jacob is one of my homies, Savoy, who pretty much all the songs you've heard from me since Cursive have been mixed and mastered by Jacob. And I just like kind of hate the idea of like recording a song and like just being a rapper and like sitting down and just hearing him mix, and I'm like on my phone doing things. Like you ask him, I'm always asking him questions. What's that right there? Why is that line raising up, and why is the frequency going so high? What is speaking? You know what I mean? Like all these things I'm asking him and just trying to figure out how to do those things. Also, it saves me a little money. You know what I mean? Like sometimes I just don't have it all. I'm just like, this is what I can do with what I have. and making it work. And I'm proud of myself. And you know what I'm saying? Now I'm like in a mode where I can tap more into like the collaborative process. So I think with the directing, as far as music videos is concerned, I really surprised myself with that. That was not something I planned on doing. I wasn't against it, but it just wasn't in my mind. But being able to like direct videos and co-direct videos has been like great. I'm now in a mode where I'm like, I want to direct or co-direct somebody else's video. I've definitely got a mind toward visuals and sequence. I also am like a huge movie fan, so I like study movies. And yeah, I'm kind of been in that phase of like directing and being a co-director and just being like, this is what I want. This is a feeling I want to like kind of evoke from people. Or how can I use the senses to figure out how to get that feeling out of people? And so yeah, it's been great. I really enjoyed that.
Sweet. You mentioned Jacob. Can you speak on Classic Studios at all?
So Classic Studios. My first time in Classic Studios. Man. Actually, Nichelle. Shout out to Nichelle. Put me on with Cole. Cole is the engineer I work with when I go to Classic, and Cole, I got in there, and Cole has been helping me like work on this album actually, and it's been really great working with them. They're like a really solid team of solid individuals doing like really great work. They've been super in tune with the vision for what I have for my music, and that's been really great. I'm super grateful for that. And they've also just been really like, they are really in tune with like the community. It's really easy when you have like a group of people in a space that you're in to be like, I'm only like, we're just in here. You know what I'm saying? This is us doing us. And when y'all come in, we got you. When your 2 hours is up, you know what I'm saying? You're out there. You know what I mean? But being in tune with that, having them be in tune with that space has been really helpful. Because I've been able to come through there and collaborate with other people and bring other people into the space and kind of figure out, and they like have sounds to contribute. It's not just like them like, you know, pressing the record button and you know, they're honestly like they actually had, like Cole's had a bunch of ideas that I didn't think about. And now we're like, what, 2 years now? So we've been in, he's in the space now where like he'll just do it. And he'll turn around and be like, what you think about that? I'm like, yes. And he's like, I figured you like that. You know what I mean? Like, and so that's been a huge blessing. Definitely shout out to Nichelle and the John Watt Foundation and just like, and you know, being in that space where I can come through and execute like a vision. And I also am just like I'm really heavy on time, like really heavy on time. So just like, boom, can we get it done? See how fast we can get it done. And if we can't get it done fast, how can we take a little bit more time to make it high quality? And Cole and them have been like super in tune with that. So I'm super grateful for that.
Who would be a few of your dream collaborations, whether it's producer or artist-wise?
Yes. So I'm gonna do my producers first. Wow, Just Blaze. Every project I will ever do and have ever done, the intro is always just like 2 minutes of just me rapping and probably just laying down. Like my favorite thing is like just rap verses. So just kind of laying down like what the rest of the project's gonna be about, all that other stuff. I would have Just Blaze produce that part. He would definitely be doing that for sure. K Tronada is another producer I would really want to work with. And oh no, I'm missing one. Just Blaze, K Tronada, Timbaland. I really want to do a collab with Timbaland for sure. I think Timbaland just like Timbaland has his sound and then continues to grow within the sounds that exist now and just adds them to Timbaland's own bag. And it's just super cool to like watch him work.
You posted one of Gold Haze's beats.
Yeah, I remember that. And I was just like, yo, y'all like, I was super proud of him and just like, yo, y'all doing great work. Like, this is really good stuff. And just also goes to show like he's like super in tune with what's going on. So yeah. Yeah, really excited about that. So those are my 3 producers. Collaborations. Oh, Anderson .Paak for sure. Mariba.
Okay.
And Mick Jenkins is another collab I'm looking to get done. Yeah. That one is those are all on the task list for sure. That one's might be at the top though. But yeah, those are my 3 and 3 right there.
Perfect. I could see some of those coming into fruition.
Oh yeah, I don't doubt it at all.
As a producer, do you have any influences when you're making your beats?
Knowledge. I really like how Knowledge produces. I would say Knowledge, Just Blaze also. I love a good soul sample. There's something about a beat with soul sample in it that is like, it just tells me as a rapper, just rap for 100 minutes. Like, just keep as much as rap as possible. Yeah, love those beats. And then a lot of like producers that like I'm existing in spaces with. Southpaw Sway, which is an amazing producer. Go Hayes is another one of those people. Day is a great producer. Produces a lot for Pivot Gang, and I like a lot of his beats for sure. And so, getting different like tips and different pieces of advice from him has been like super helpful in like creating my sound, or like just like not my sound, but my just different types of like flavors I guess I could add to like what I do create. So yeah.
Cool. Perfect. All right, lastly, to wrap it up, any highlights from 2021 and any big plans for 2022?
Highlights from 2021. Man, I was able to, I think 2021, I would definitely say one of my biggest highlights was being able to fund and help out with one of my mentees' like first projects. That felt really good. That's something that like I was able to be invested in when I was working on my first project. And to be able to do that personally for somebody was like, felt really good. Also, the music was really good. Like, that helped a lot. You know what I mean? Like, I'm always into helping people execute their visions. But to see them believe in it and also see the quality of the work that they did have was high already. And they just needed somebody or a group of people to like contribute to it. I was like, yes, that felt really good. Putting out a project, you know what I'm saying, it's a 3-song EP, but the song that, it's crazy, usually the song that I rock with the most and I feel like is the most important on a project never gets the recognition that I think it deserves, or the focus or the attention, but with this 3-song project, I and like the audience were very much on the same page with this project, which feels really good. I got a lot of different messages and different phone calls about like what people took from the project, and a lot of people who are sharing in like that odd time. The last few months of August was really rough for me, and so from like July up until like the end of the year, I was like really going through it, and finding a way to document it and to put it in words, which is something that like I really had a hard time doing, felt really good. You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like it did something for me, and I was really hoping that it might be able to do something for somebody else. And so in that moment of like, losing people and transitioning in a lot of different like phases of life, being able to drop that was like really great, and then being able to get that feedback was a huge blessing too, because that was like worth it. Like, that was the return on investment I was looking for, and it felt really good to get that and be able to do that for other people. So yeah, I think those are my top 2. That's like first on my head. Yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah.
And then any plans for this upcoming year?
we're about to drop an album, guys. There it is. I'll raise my voice a little bit. We're about to drop an album. The album is called. So we're looking to drop it probably around like. We're looking at March, toward the end of March. It's gonna be my best work. Seriously, my best work. Sooner than that, we'll be dropping one of the songs off the album in a few weeks. That is called, and we're gonna probably have we'll probably have the promo for it in about a week, and then from there I'll make sure you all. Yes, definitely hear that for sure. Yeah. Great.
And outside of art, anything going on?
Outside of art, so I'm working on. I'm still teaching right now, so I'm working right now, but I'll be definitely hosting a lot of workshops throughout the summer. Not throughout the summer, throughout the spring. I'll be hosting a series of workshops throughout the spring for young people and older people who are looking to create and figure out how they can advance. I really just want people to be in a space where they can meet other people to create with. And so I'll be hosting that. I have information for that. Me and my team that I'm working with are going to be workshopping how that looks for the next over the next few weeks. And we'll be having information for people to join. It's going to be free. And the details will be out for that in a little while, but people will be able to come together and workshop. It's not just going to be writing, creating songs, but even just people who want to find out what they want to do in their creative space and just meet people who are able to do that. So yeah, it'll be a series of workshops and panels and all that good stuff. So yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for taking some time for us.
Sure.
We're so grateful for it.
Sure.
And everybody, you gotta keep your eye out on them.
Oh, dude, both of them.